It's shiny.
No, it's not.
Which certainly is. Oh, it's clear. Oh, we're on.
You guys are a pain.
I don't see it yet.
We are, well, stop looking at your phone and look instead at Zoom. Have a drink, have a drink. Have a drink. Okay, I think we're gonna get started because it is 8:01 on my time here, and I'm being told by a bunch of people that we are live. And in fact, I'm being told by Rick Seymour, rock and roll. So let's rock and roll. Hi, everybody watching tonight. I'm Stephanie Shapiro, COO of the Together We Stand Foundation. We are a foundation that was formed to honor and support Canadian military families across the country. Today I have some really special guests come with me today, and I'm really pumped for our show. But before I introduce them, I want to talk to you about something that's going on, an initiative that's happening on our part right now. We are about 3 weeks out from Military Family Appreciation Day. For those of you who've been following us on Facebook, we started our 1 month long campaign where we are going to be talking about military families, educating Canadians about military families, and more importantly, on September 18th, we are going to be celebrating military families and thanking them for all they do for our country. So keep watching us on Facebook. We have a really awesome campaign coming up starting September 1st. It's going to be really fun. We also have a few shows lined up specifically about Military Family Appreciation Day. Next week, we are going to be talking about military myths. We're going to have guests on and debunking all of the largest military myths that we've heard. And on the week of Military Family Appreciation Day, we're actually going to have some retired folk who are going to talk about their time in service, and they're going to talk about the important role that their family played while they were serving our country. But today, I have a really, really fun show that I'm excited about. Today, we are actually going to meet the Together We Stand team because I really want to introduce all of you fine people to the people who are running the show behind the scenes while Rick Seymour and I are busy in your face distracting you. We have some really fun people that are going to be on the show tonight, and we're going to start with people who are near and dear to my heart, mostly because they gave birth to me. They are my parents, Rick and Lillian Eckstein. Guys,
We're not that fun.
welcome to the command post.
Nothing to do with giving birth to you. I did all that.
That's true. That's true. It only took 10 episodes, but we finally got you on. And I apologize because we are no longer coming at you live from in the bathroom. Now that, you know, COVID restrictions have kind of loosened up a little bit, we're venturing to other parts of our house. So unfortunately, you don't get to see my parents sitting in the bathtub together. So that could have been really entertaining, but instead they're coming at you live from the kitchen. So welcome, Mom and Dad. Thanks for being a part of our show tonight. I think it's going to be a really fun show. We get to talk about the stuff that you guys have started and the legacy that you guys have put together.
Make fun of you?
Yeah, don't make fun of me.
Okay.
I'm running the show here. I can mute you at any time. So maybe before we talk about TWS, why don't you guys talk about a little bit of your background, who you are, where you came from, what you did before your TWS time, and talk about sort of what got us here today.
Okay, I think quite frankly, what got us here is our background. So maybe that is a good way to start. You want to start? You want me to start?
I can start.
Okay.
I can start. Rick and I both come from families. We're first generation Canadians, and our families came to Canada after World War II. Being Jewish, our families were persecuted, and our families were fortunate, at least our parents were fortunate to survive in very different ways. My parents both survived in Siberia, where they were not in concentration camps, but they were in labor camps. They weren't dragged out into the street and shot, but they were worked. Many of them worked to death in sub-zero temperatures. People starved, they died of illness, they died of disease, there was no medication. And
80% of your parents' camp.
of the people who were in the camp that my mother was in did not survive. So I am very fortunate to say that my entire mother's family survived because they were there and they were willing to work hard. And then what happened after the war was my father went into the smuggling business. He started smuggling people from Poland through Czechoslovakia into Germany, where they ended up in displaced persons camps, and that made it a lot easier for people to go then to the United States, to Canada, or to Israel once they received sponsorship from family who already lived there. My father was actually a wanted man at this point because he was smuggling people, and was warned by a guard at one of the borders that he had befriended. And subsequently, the very last truckload of people he took across had my mother, my mother's parents, and her brother and sister in the truck. My parents were married in the DP camp in 1946. My sister was born in the DP camp in Germany in 1947. And my parents and my sister, who at the time was not quite a year old, made their way to Canada in 1948. And the rest, as they say, is history.
I think they landed here literally with $5 between them.
With nothing.
My background, somewhat similar. My father's side had it much easier. They were from Czechoslovakia. They were smart enough to see the writing on the wall as to what was happening with the rise of Hitler. And they got out of Czechoslovakia literally the day before the Germans closed the borders. There were a number of family members that were supposed to follow a few days later. They never made it out. And my parents made it to Canada, or my father made it to Canada in 1939, I think. My mother, who was living in Poland with her family, her parents, was not quite as fortunate. Her mother was taken off the streets by the Nazis and subsequently sent to a concentration camp. Her father knew that he was going to be next, and he had a Gentile friend who he asked to look after my mother, which he did. He said he would. Of course, her father was killed. My mother was brought up by a Catholic priest, and long story short, just like Lillian's parents, came to Canada with nothing, where my mom and dad met. And quite frankly, I think both of our parents lived at the time what was called the Canadian dream.
Yeah, Rick and I both grew up very similarly, with very little. I won't say poor because that connotes all kinds of things, but Canada gave our parents the opportunity to be free of religious persecution, and to be alive and to provide for their family. Rick and I first met in grade 10 in high school. I took little to no interest in him because I remember in our grade 10 math class, he stood about 4'9" and looked very much like a 12-year-old little boy, not like a grade 10 high school student. We eventually started dating the summer of grade 12. We got engaged in 1979, got married in 1980, had Stephanie in 1983, and our daughter Michelle in 85. And we've just last week, 2 weeks ago, celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary.
So we have this family background, and then Dad, you followed in your father's footsteps into the family business, and you spent 40 years in the family business, and a few years ago retired. And you guys decided you needed to, well, I retired from the lumber industry, and in the meantime, your retirement is busier than you were in your working life. But you and Mom together decided it was time to start giving back to the country. Why the military?
You're absolutely right. I spent 40 years in business, and as you very well know, Steph, I was doing business all over the world and traveling all the time. I was away from home a great deal. And every time I landed back at Pearson in Canada, I said, Canada is the best country in the world. And, you know, we can get into that and spend a whole evening talking about that. But that was the conclusion. And you're right. I tried retirement about 4 years ago, which hasn't worked out very well. But one of our goals, because we did so well in Canada, was we wanted to figure out how to say thank you. And it's a little bit difficult trying to figure out how to say thank you to a country. So lots of conversations, but the short story is that the military is the most trusted institution in Canada. So we decided that that would be our focus. I don't have to tell you and the military men and women or their families who are listening tonight, they go where they're tasked. They frequently go with inferior equipment, maybe superior training, but inferior equipment, and they do absolutely whatever is asked of them. So we decided that the military would be our focus. And then Lillian asked sort of the pivotal question, because she spent so much time waiting for me to come home. Her pivotal question was, is there anything being done for military families? I think that was what started this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a small comparison for what I went through with Rick starting the company, continuing with the company and traveling and everything. It's a very small comparison to what military families experience, because, you know, Dad would go away for, you know, 2 weeks, usually out of every month. And I was home with you girls. But I always knew he was coming back. And unless, you know, something totally crazy happened, he wasn't putting himself in any harm's way. Whereas military families, military spouses and children, their spouses leave with that little bit of uncertainty as to how safe they will be. And so I think that was important. I spent a long time where Dad would recognize me for the part I was playing in his career. I think it became important to us, and especially to me, that we recognize these families as to how important they are to their spouses' careers.
Absolutely.
That's just the final comment. So you asked how all this started. As Mom said, I acknowledge to everybody all the time that I couldn't do what I was doing without the support of her and you and your sister. And whenever we talk to men and women, when we started talking to men and women in uniform about this idea for this foundation, they all said the same thing. They could not do what they do without the support of the family at home. So our dream, as you know, is to have every Canadian acknowledge and thank every military family for their contribution for helping to make Canada the best damn country in the world. And that's how we got here.
I love it. We're going to have a couple extra guests pop up in a few minutes, and we're going to have you guys exit. But I have a couple more questions that I want to ask you. So Eleanor and Laura, if you're watching, you're up shortly. We saw some awesome work coming out of TWS from 2017, 2018, 2019, and in 2019, Dad, you went from being a really active player, being the CEO and president of the organization, and you said it's time for me to take a step back. What made you pass the torch?
I'm not sure if that's how it went. I think you fired me.
I didn't say, Dad, I love you, but you're fired.
When I started this, I asked a friend of mine who was between gigs to help me. That's Landon French, and he was a big help, and he's subsequently gone on to bigger and better things, but he helped me. And then if you remember, I asked you to come in and help me a little bit. And the first thing you said to me very shortly after you came on board was, Dad, we need a full-time CEO. And
not you doing it off the side of your desk.
Yeah. And we hired Rick Seymour, and together you and Rick have done a tremendous job. I also and I know we're running out of time, but I want to take 30 seconds to thank everybody in our office, because it's a business office, but we also run this foundation out of it. And every member of our team, and I guess you're going to meet a number of them tonight, as soon as they heard about what we're doing, they wanted to be part of it. And our whole staff has volunteered for this, and our whole staff is helping us achieve our dreams. So I do want, and two of them just popped up here, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that, you know, they all have real jobs and they're helping us do this because of their commitment.
Sometimes more than you'd like. Sometimes you're like, Steph, I need them back, but they just keep diving into the TWS stuff.
And the last thing I'd like to say, unless you have any other questions, and I'd like to very much thank our donors. There's too many to name. With Stephanie, she'll throw me off. So please go to our website to check out the list. We've had some.
A lot of them are family and friends.
A lot of them are family and friends. We have had some very generous Canadians and Canadian companies who've stepped up to help us. So again, thank you to all of you very much.
And my last question, there's Alina, but I think Alina's going to come back in about 10 minutes when we have some questions for her. My last question is sort of big picture. What do you kind of hope to see out of TWS in the future as we grow and as we become more, as we try to ingratiate ourselves with military families more and more?
As I said, I think the dream, is still consistent. Most Canadians, as you know, we've had this discussion with Canadians and with military families. Most Canadians don't have a clue as to what our military men and women do. And we've had the chance to spend some time with them, and there are some incredible people that we've got in uniform. So that people don't even understand what our military does is one thing, but our dream has been for people to understand the importance of the military families to the success of the military. And as I said earlier, if we could get every Canadian to donate $1, or every Canadian to write a thank you to military families, that I would say our dream would come true.
Absolutely.
Excellent. I can't ask for more from you guys. So thank you so much for being on the show with us. Next time I'll force you to be in the bathtub somewhere, even if the rest of us are in the rest of the house. Go finish up your drinks. And we're going to move on to Laura and Eleanor and keep meeting other members of our team.
Okay, so
thank you.
We're going to leave the room. Thank you very much for everything, and good luck with the rest of the show.
Thanks. Bye, guys. Hi, guys. So now we have Eleanor Miller and Laura Grossman. Eleanor and Laura are make up two of our volunteers, and they work on our government relations and political relations sort of group in terms of Together We Stand. And more importantly, they are, Eleanor right now very much working closely with Laura is spearheading our Military Family Appreciation Day campaign. So thanks for being here today, guys. I know it's like pulling teeth getting you guys to sit behind a screen with me.
I was going to say it's super awkward to be on this side of the camera.
You like to be behind. Yeah. You like to be behind the scenes, but today we're celebrating you guys. So sit there, get comfortable, and I'll only keep you here for 10 minutes.
Okay.
Take a couple more.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers.
I really want people to get to know you and know about you. Before you came to TWS and you started volunteering with TWS, give us a little bit of your background, sort of how you came to us. Heads or tails, whoever goes first.
Sure. So I'll start. I started my working career in politics, actually. I worked on Parliament Hill for 5 years, so politics is kind of in my DNA. And then I moved on to a great organization also involved in politics, training young people to take more active role in politics, working on tons of campaigns and really just kind of doing my bit in our democratic system. And I was fortunate enough to have known Rick, actually. Our political paths crossed about a dozen years ago. Rick Eckstein, yes, about a dozen years ago. And he was involved with the organization I was working with, so it was very sort of serendipitous. Rick Eckstein kept kind of popping up into my political life. So it was really fun to be able to come and work with him officially now at phase 3 and to volunteer for Together We Stand.
Great. And Laura?
Elle and I have very similar backgrounds. I spent about 10 years on Parliament Hill, working on a variety of different files, but I think what's most interesting in relation to TWS is the Veterans Affairs files. So spent 2.5 years working on that up in Ottawa, and came back to Toronto, where I'm from, to work at a diplomatic mission for a couple of years before being, I think, employee number 2 or 3 at phase 3, and really having a unique perspective at watching TWS be born and being able to contribute from the jump.
And why TWS, guys? You could volunteer anywhere. You could put your time. I mean, you have so many skills to add to an organization, so much experience. Why TWS?
Laura, did you want to start this one?
Sure. I have a personal connection to the military. I lost a good friend in Afghanistan, and watched what happened to his partner and his family following, and feel a deep affinity to the military family for the sacrifices that they make, knowing that their loved one is, heading out the door in training or to be deployed, and who knows, what they're going to face when they leave that door, but their family's back home, and I can't think of a better cause than to support them and honor them for that.
Awesome. And Elle, how'd you end up here?
So mine comes a little bit closer to home. I am actually military family. I have been for almost half my life. So I've been on the other side. I've been through, at least 3 deployments, lots of training exercises, that worry, that fear, but also, needing to support, the member in uniform and just sort of get things done, when you're at home, when you're by yourself. And, I have quite a few friends who are also kind of military family members, and having an organization like this that's devoted, just to supporting and recognizing them was just like this incredible moment where all of that sacrifice that you do just, because you love the person that you're with, but having an outside organization and really Canadians kind of recognize that and do my small part to recognize and help and support and do things, maybe to make a few things right that frustrated me, but really just to show them that Canadians do care and want to give them like a shout out, and that they're not just kind of working away behind the scenes.
Great. I love it. So aside from the fact that you guys both do a ton of work with the organization and that you both have your areas of expertise, and literally Rick and I do not make one decision without putting it past the two of you first, tell us a little bit, because we're focused on Military Family Appreciation Day right now, tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing behind the scenes. Now, I know we have a few secrets that we're not divulging just yet, so stay tuned, because September 1st, we're going to be talking a little bit more about our campaign, but tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing to sort of help MFAD get executed for 2020.
Elle?
Okay, for sure. So I think what I will say is MFAD was going to take a bit of a different direction this year, and I was working on that at first because I was very passionate about it. I have an organizational background, having planned, 8 years worth of conferences for university students, and, really kind of getting in the weeds there. And we had all of these wonderful in-person ideas, and then, COVID-19. So we had to quickly, that's going to be my answer to everything, just COVID-19, and I'll just like do a little head shake.
Be a 4-letter word.
Absolutely. It just keeps giving. But it actually did give us like an amazing opportunity to go, even bigger and broader and reach more Canadians, than we might have necessarily done if we were doing in-person events. And so I did what I usually do when I was thinking about what we could do, how we could do this, digital campaigns. I went to a group of extremely smart, talented individuals who are creative and wonderful. And if they're watching, you guys know exactly who you are. And it was a very fun conversation. And we kicked around a ton of ideas, and one kind of, came to the forefront. And a lot of them have military backgrounds. They're serving in the military, or they worked in politics. And we were talking about like what it means to be a military family, and we wanted something, you know, as you guys will see in the big reveal, to kind of like encompass that. So coming with that kind of kernel of an idea back to the team, who luckily for me were very enthusiastic about it, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. So my role has been, because I'm a planner and an organizer, is to, you know, really kind of help everybody stay on track with the 1,000,001 tasks that go into making an amazing digital campaign. And I'm so fortunate to work with this team that's just executing and taking like a little kernel of an idea into something just really amazing and magical. So helping where I can, you know, leveraging any people that I know, doing a lot of begging and pleading of friends, you know, please do this, give me your help, you know, every friendship, every network I have kind of working it, and just keeping that sort of 50,000 foot view. But there's some awesome team members like Laura that are just doing so much for this.
I was going to say, well, she's up in the air, I'm on the ground. Definitely.
That's why we're a good team.
I am dealing with all of the media, so trying to raise some national attention in traditional, non-traditional media, just really to tell the story of the military family, and also to encourage Canadians to thank them for their immense sacrifices. And then in addition to that, really leaning on my political background and all of my friends and my contacts, and asking them to participate in the secret plan that nobody can know about just yet. But really trying to engage people from across the country, coast to coast to coast, and ensuring that they all are given the opportunity to thank our military families, and the opportunity and the space to do it, because I think that's really what's been lacking so far.
You've been knocking down everybody's door. I don't think there's going to be one. I mean, it might as well be an election between the door knocking that you guys have. I see you there. I have one more question for these ladies, and I'm coming to you next. To Brian and Julie, our team. You guys can log on anytime in the next minute or so. Ultimately, what is your hope for MFAD 2020? What does success look like for you guys?
Trying to take this one first, Laura?
I think our version of success might sound very similar, but I think it's just getting that mass participation from average civilians that may not have a personal connection to the military. Those that do, I'm sure, will participate and take the opportunity to thank their families. But really, I'm hoping that, you know, those who are watching or listening, and if you don't have a military family member or a friend, I hope you take the opportunity to participate and say thanks to our military, because they just continue to do incredible things on our behalf.
Yes, they do. Elle, you want to close us out?
Yeah, so I would say definitely that, everything that Laura said, 100%. And for me also, just to educate people. You know, I can't tell you, you know, as a military family member, how many times I've had to explain to people what it actually means. I think, you know, and I have to say, it's not like Army Wives, the show, you know, and it's not like the movies.
It's not like what you see on TV.
Yeah, so I hope people who are watching are following along on our social media, because I think our team's doing like a dynamite, you know, just getting the word out there about what it means to be a military family, who we are, that every military family is a little bit different, maybe breaking down some of the myths and educating people about what we do, you know, behind the scenes. And with that, you know, really understanding why we're asking people to say thank you to military families, you know, that they do have sort of a unique lifestyle, you know, I'll say, and they don't do it for thanks, but man, it does kind of get you up in the morning, you know, if a few people recognize what you're doing beyond, you know, your spouse, your brother or sister, your member in uniform. You know, those folks are always really appreciative, but it's kind of nice that the rest of Canada recognizes
that's the crazy part. I'm going to give a shout out to my other team members. So anytime you guys want to log on, we're going to finish up with Laura and Eleanor, but to kind of follow what you were saying, Eleanor, nobody know, you know, what's so interesting when we speak to the military families about the programs we're running and what we're trying to do, they sit there and they go, no one's done this before. And it's astonishing that no one has. I mean, I understand now, because when you really talk to the majority of Canadians, they're like, wait, we have a military? So, you know, we're not always as well educated in our Canadian military as we need to be, and therefore nobody even knows military families exist. But man, when it's done and when the thanks is there, that little bit of acknowledgement, they're so appreciative. They're so grateful, and it's a beautiful thing, and they so deserve it. So let's keep pushing that message. I thank Laura and Elle for joining us here tonight, and putting yourself out of your comfort zone and stepping in front of the camera instead of behind the camera. So thank you. I promise I won't make you do this again soon. And
we're going to hold you to that.
Yeah,
we're going to hold you to that.
And we're going to move on to the next few members of our team.
Right.
Bye,
Right?
everybody.
Thank you.
Hello.
So Alina and Julie, we're waiting on Brian Moskowitz and Brian Rowley. I'm not sure where they are, but while we're waiting, why don't we start talking? First of all, do we all have a little beverage in hand here?
I just want to show you guys what I have. Okay, so we're going to start with some water.
That's not water. That looks like a Moscow Mule situation.
It is that too. Some iced coffee.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
Oh, that's a lot of liquid.
there
That's
is. But
awesome.
we're not judging though, right? We're not.
Like, are you going to make it through without having to run to the bathroom? Because I would not. There's no way.
No, I did the bathroom check right before I hopped on.
Okay, perfect. Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, how are you? You notice how the oldest one's the last one to get on here?
We're waiting on Brian Moskowitz. I don't know where he is, but you know, we got to keep going here. And I wish I had a picture of him I could just sort of hold up.
He'll be here shortly.
And so I want to get started here. So here is another batch of our amazing volunteers who all very much have full-time jobs on top of the volunteering we do for the Together We Stand Foundation. So thank you so much for everything that you guys do. And thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's so exciting to actually get to celebrate the people who are normally behind the scenes. So thank you for coming and letting us celebrate you guys for all the work that you guys do on a daily basis for us. We have Alina Pay, we have Julie Karami, and we have Brian Rowley. So before we talk about what you guys actually do with the organization, why don't you give us a little bit of background in terms of how you got here? So Alina, what did you do prior to your TWS experience?
So I joined Phase 3 in being an investment analyst under Brian's the finance department. So luckily I have military backgrounds as well. So when this idea becomes to be true, I feel like it's going to be a great opportunity of have a better understanding how Canadian military family looks like. So I was so passionate about getting more and more, but in terms of my educational background, I was accountant. I used to be accountant before joining Phase 3, so I volunteered to be as an accountant.
And Alina, what is it that you do for our organization? Why don't you share with everybody?
You mean Phase 3 or TWS?
No, Together We Stand.
Together We Stand. I'm the accountant and then taking care of all the financial side of that.
And a fine accountant you are, because you make sure that the donors are sending us the money, and that way we can get our programs out on the ground. So you have a very important job as far as I'm concerned, because without you, we're not collecting anything that we can distribute to the family. So thank you.
Thank you for considering it as important. I consider it as very interesting.
Julie, before you came to us at TWS, what's your background?
So I worked at a school as a teacher for about 13 years. And one day,
You were done with those children.
One very cold day, we get a phone call for this opportunity to volunteer and help out with the packaging. And I remember
our care packages.
Our care packages, absolutely, yes. And I went there and I put these boxes, these packages together, and I left that night. And I'd gone there at 8:30 in the morning. We left at almost 10. And I remember driving home thinking, okay, this is phenomenal. this is absolutely beautiful. This is great. I want to be involved more. What can I do? And, you know, a lot of back and forth talking to you. Here I am today. And I honestly, this is probably one of the most meaningful things I've ever done. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this amazing team.
So this is a note just to everybody watching that if we recruit you to help put together our care packages, you may never leave.
You may never leave. That's right.
And Julie, in terms of your role for TWS, what do you help us do?
So basically, the title is Social Media and Brand Specialist. And what I do is I'm part of the planning and implementing and monitoring the social media platforms to bring awareness to the general public. And also a lot of other things behind the scene with, like I just said, with the packaging. And yeah, that's my job in a nutshell.
With our marketing company, Julie has taken our Facebook population from, you know, call it the low couple thousands to, I think we're just over 12,000 followers now, which is amazing. Right. Because the more people that know about us, the more people know about military families. So you are doing a phenomenal job with that. And now I go over to Mr. Rowley. Brian, before you came to us at TWS, I mean, you have a very, very long life because you're significantly older than all of us, as we always like to remind you.
Thanks, Steph, I needed that.
Tell us a little bit of your background before you joined us at TWS.
For people watching out there, you can tell we're a pretty we're a pretty organized operation, and we stick to a lot of protocol, as you can tell.
Oh yeah, we have no fun.
My background is a lifelong background in CFO of family offices, a single family office, and your dad Rick and I got together about 3 years or so ago. And from day one, I mean, the chemistry was just there. One thing led to another, and I began working full time again for phase 3, and working with a phenomenal group of people. It's a team of, I think, 12 of us, and your dad has always stressed we're family. Well, it feels like family. It is family. And so when this opportunity came along with Together We Stand, which was a dream that your parents had for a while, and your mom and your dad explained that earlier, it was an honor. It was an honor to volunteer and to step up. And then, Julie came along, and Brian, who was going to join us, purportedly, came along. It's just a team. The team goes from phase 3 to Together We Stand and gels. And it's at this stage in my career, it's very, very satisfying and very nice to be able to give back. To give back to this wonderful country. I've lived in Canada my whole life. I'm from a small town, southwestern Ontario. I was a farm boy. I left that very early, went to university, and moved to Toronto very young. Toronto's where I knew where I wanted to be. I didn't go back. And to end up now with your family and with Together We Stand, giving back, it's with a sense of gratitude that I'm here tonight saying this. It's a wonderful experience, and I get to work with 3 lovely people like you. And
now I feel bad about calling you old.
What do I do? You'll hear about it tomorrow. What I do, TWS on a day-to-day basis, very little. Alina does it all.
Well, thank you for that. And you are our organization's CFO, and you make sure that we always have our numbers in order, and then you make sure that we are audited every single year and we are being completely financially responsible to the organization, to our donors, to our families. You play an enormous role in that between you and Alina on our financial team. So that's huge. If I can ask you one question before we move on to our final guest this evening. You've all had a year, 2 years under your belt with the organization. Is there a particular memory that stands out for you, or is there something, or is there a particular meaningful part of the organization that really stands out to you? I'd love to hear sort of what your sort of peak moments are.
Go ahead, ladies.
Okay, I'll start. There's there's a lot. There's a lot. We have lots of laughter, and like you guys said, and like Rick said, and Brian just said right now, we are a family. All of us are so connected. We can count on each other, rely on each other. So in that aspect, there's so many different things. I think for me particularly, it was 2019 when I was explaining to my 9-year-old that this is what I do. Do you wanna come out and see? And when she was there running around and helping, putting the packages together, the gift packages together, there was a second that I stood back and I watched, and it was very overwhelming for me. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm so proud to be Canadian, and there's so much that I want to do. So many times I want to say, okay, thank you. And like Rick, like your dad said, like Rick said, how do we thank? And for me, watching my daughter help out, that was probably one of the most meaningful moments for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I will tell you, we are going to be recruiting her again this year for our gift pack because she was efficient. Look at the adults in the room.
She worked her hard.
She worked her hard. So we're recruiting her back. Alina, is there something that stands out for you, or is there a favorite moment for you that you can think of?
Yeah, I have like one time when I walk in our meeting office, I was emotional because I saw everybody's like in our team are giving the passion, volunteering one thing, and then teamwork together. This is like I have teamwork for work and for study as well, but that was my first time feeling like a group of people getting together and working for a passion. Like this is something incredible, very I was so emotional at the moment because I grew up in a military family as well. I know this group of people need help sometimes, need to be recognized by the public. And then I'm so proud of I can be this kind of charitable foundation, help. I'll try our best because in the meantime, I was, for example, I was study there. I was working there, has the opportunity learning with Brian about accounting and finance skills, his experience. This is something I really appreciate it. I want to giving back to the organization that I can be helped, even though I may not able to be creative to create an image and organize the events, but I feel like I was being so emotional and then having the same passion and volunteering with the whole team and then giving out whatever that I can do.
I love it, and you've been so fun to have part of the team. And don't say that you're not creative, because you have single-handedly come up with some really creative ideas for our organization that we have actually implemented. So I'm calling you out on that. And Brian, why don't you take us home in terms of this particular group? What do you have to say?
Yeah, I think there's two watershed moments. The one was the first of the year that Landon French and I shared an office. That was a kick, but actually on a serious note, I learned so much from Landon. You know, Landon was instrumental in getting this foundation underway and kicked off and leading us to where we are now. The other watershed moment, and I tend to carry my emotions on my sleeve, and when I walk by our bulletin board sometimes and see the letters from the military families, from the wives and the sons and the daughters and husbands that come in, we post them, and to read those, I know it's all worth it. It's very satisfying. I know that what we're doing matters, and that makes me feel good. It makes me.
You guys are huge to the organization, huge to the team, huge to the family. I thank you all for the amazing work that you guys are doing. And I thank you all tonight for joining me on the command post and letting everybody get to know who you are. So thank you guys. And now we have my partner in crime popping up, Rick Seymour, the man himself, our CEO. So he's hopefully up. There he is now. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Alina and Julie and Brian. There he is.
Hello there.
Thanks for joining us, pal.
Fancy meeting you here.
Do you have a beverage in hand tonight, this evening?
I wouldn't let you drink alone.
Good. Well, I mean, you often encourage it, but that's okay. So thanks for being with us tonight. How do you think it's going so far? I think it's awesome that everybody gets to meet our team.
Well, I wanted to ask you how you're doing with it, considering you're not in the washroom for once. This is the first time you've been free and in a different setting.
You feel so comfortable being in a real chair and not having the echo of like the toilet next to me. So
you know what? But to answer your question, I'm so proud of this group. I'm so proud of the team that we have here. It's really just a fraction, but this is obviously the core group. We have a tremendous amount of individuals who aren't on this call tonight that we work with as well. Obviously, we mentioned some names of people that have come before and helped build the foundation and get it to here. But overall, I'm so grateful to be part of this organization, and fortunate to be leading it too. But
I actually feel like we should give a shout out. We need to shout out to part of our team that's not on the call tonight. We have Sarah or Zima Seaton from Big Red Bow who helps us out. We have Gino and Matt and the team at the Creative Co-op that help us out. We have Sean from the Media Kitchen that helps us out. We have Jordy Saperia that helps us out. We have so many people that want to give their time to this organization. We're just so lucky.
Yeah, so it's nice to see everybody, get to spend a few minutes talking about it. And like I said, I'm really proud of the group.
So let's, I mean, you haven't had that many drinks yet, so I can't ask you the embarrassing questions, but before you came to TWS, tell us a little bit about your background. How'd you get here?
How much time do you have?
Not that much. So keep, right. And I know you like to talk, so I'll mute you if I have to.
Fair enough. Well, my background, I grew up in Unionville, Ontario, a little suburb north of Toronto. My dad's side of the family is from New Brunswick, Fredericton. My mom's side is from Beaconsfield, Quebec, small towns on their own right, both with military presence in and around the areas. And I have a tremendous family and appreciation of family. My wife and my parents and my sister and my nephew and other nieces and nephews on the other side. I'm really fortunate, and I've always believed that Canada is the greatest country in the world. So maybe that's where my love for this foundation first came from. But my journey to TWS has been a bit of a winding one. I did my undergrad at the University of Guelph and did a criminal justice and public policy degree. I then played semi-pro golf for about 8 years, and no, my golf game is not that good anymore. And then I got into recruitment, sales, and marketing. And it was about 3 years ago I was able to meet this lovely group here, yourself included, and I guess the rest is sort of history.
Yeah, and what made you decide that? I mean, you jumped ship from a totally different career. We somehow managed to convince you it would be a good idea. What made you decide to join our team? What was appealing to you?
Well, Laura Grossman is relentless for one. Combined with you, I think that it's a pretty good tandem there. But I think you alluded to it earlier. I mean, so yeah, my previous career, I was working with a great agency, and we're fortunate to win the trust of Together We Stand to help develop its branding and marketing and communications and strategy moving forward. And the more I was able to dig into it, I just realized what a noble cause that it was. And it's coming from such a well-intended place. I've never really met a group of people that just want to do something good and really don't want anything in return. And it's not often you come across individuals or groups like that who do something that it's really just because it's the right thing to do. And, I've not served in the military either. And I have a university roommate that serves in the military now. I have 3 other friends that are in the military. My uncle flew CF-18s at a Borden, and 2 great uncles that flew in WW2. And I think, for me, this became a way to serve in my own way, and just try to give back to a community that deserves so much more recognition and acknowledgement than they normally get. Our contributions to the foundation pale in comparison to the sacrifices and that these families make. And I mean, their loved ones are willing to pay the ultimate price so that we can do this and we can live the lives that we do. And I think, for us to be able to say thank you to them and make sure that they know there are Canadians that stand with them, it's really important, and it's the least that we can do.
I totally agree, and I love it. And you took my father passed the torch on to you in January 2000.
No, I think you took it from him and gave it to me.
There everybody keeps saying this, and even though it's true, and you're all very, very welcome, I'm still going to stick with. He voluntarily gave it to you, and you took over that seat in January 2020. Tell us a little bit about how 2020 has gone so far, where we've gone, what we're working on, and perhaps how we've had to pivot because of this pandemic that none of us could see coming.
Well, actually, no, I think it's been pretty much the exact year that I anticipated when I took this role in January.
Clear sailing.
No, and as much as we kid with Rex, as I affectionately call him, I'm still learning a great deal from him.
I'm not sure he actually loves that nickname, by the way. So you're very lucky that you're getting away with it.
So I must be doing something right. But no, I'm still learning a great deal from him. And just being able to continue to build on the legacy that your parents want to leave on this country. It's a tremendous honor, and it's something that I think every day kind of helps motivate me to try to do the best job that I can for this foundation and for our country. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that at this point in my life. But yeah, no, kidding aside, I mean, everybody across the globe in 2020 has had their life flipped upside down. And, we're certainly not immune to it as a foundation. But, from our programs and our strategies, we've had to adapt. And I'm really proud of the way that our teams handled that. We've been extremely agile, and we've, pivoted in a lot of different ways. But I think we've driven some programs forward that have tremendous amount of impact. We've grown our Operation Care package this year, and we'll have more impactful gifts going out over the Christmas holiday season time. MFAD this year, I mean, between Laura and Eleanor and yourself, Steph, I mean, I'm just in awe every day of what we're hopefully going to accomplish. And I can't wait to see how Canada responds as a country. But we've really embraced technology, and we've put an emphasis on connecting with people at the grassroots, and really tried to develop trust and relationships from the bottom up and the top down, and hopefully, from both coasts. So, I think there's a lot of stuff that we're driving that's going to be meaningful. And it's all geared toward that acknowledgement, building that resilience for military families, and just saying thank you, because these military families, like I said, go through a lot for us. So I'm glad that we are the first foundation that's really putting them at the forefront. There's a lot of great foundations that are out there, as we know. And, we don't need to name them all, but they do a lot of great things for troops and veterans. And it was Lillian who came up with the wonderful idea of, putting that family focus first. And every time I get to meet with a veteran or an active member or a retired member or a spouse or a family, and they get to, say thank you to me, I joked several times that it's this Canadian standoff where they're thanking us and we're thanking them. And it's, nobody can get a word in edgewise. So no, it's really fantastic, and we're loving it.
Tell me, one of the things that you came in and what I loved about what you were going to do with the organization, and you kind of started this messaging before you kind of took over the organization, but it's really been your number one rule since you've taken over. You have this whole philosophy of no assumptions, which I love. But tell us why that's so important and how that's going to impact the direction we go in.
Well, we're in Toronto, and there isn't really a large military presence around us. And, as I mentioned, I'm not a military family member myself, and you're not, and your parents aren't, and nobody on our team, aside from Eleanor, is. Well, I guess Sarah is a military family member. But, I've always felt that the best way forward is by learning from people around you and listening and asking questions and trying to gain as much information as possible so that you can deliver impacts and programs that really, truly resonate. And, instead of just coming from a well-intended place, I thought, why don't we actually go to the people who we're trying to serve and support and acknowledge and ask them what's really going to move the needle. There was this funny analogy that we heard one time, you've heard me say this a few times, but, we don't want to be this foundation that gives turkeys to vegetarians, even though it's meant with the best intent. If it's not delivered in the correct way, then it's going to just cause further feelings of isolation and alienation. And we're really trying to create this foundation that is for the military families and for the people, and understand that, whether you're, just starting out your military career, or you've been in it for 40, or somewhere in between, that there's a spot for you kind of in the foundation, and because the family is all encompassing. And who better to figure out how to help with that than our families. And one of the initiatives that we've built is our Military Family Advisory Council, headed up by retired Chief Troy Zero, who's just unbelievable. And we have 7 or 8 different men and women at various ages and from demographics and locations across the country that have
land, sea, air.
Correct. That have, lent their time to us because they see what we're doing is something really special. And, I think just one little story, if I might, was the first time you asked me why TWS. The first time I was lucky enough to go to Edmonton, deliver some care packages in person.
You're welcome.
I'm not the best photographer, but
I had to drag him there, okay? And now he was hooked. So
it was a life-changing trip for me. And the first time I had a military spouse come up, give me a hug and say thank you for seeing me and hearing me. It's the first time I felt like I've been part of the military journey and recognized for it. As you know, I'm a bit of a crier at times, but that one certainly kind of hit home. And I think there's a lot of individuals out there that might feel sometimes that they're on their own, and it's our goal to make sure that they feel like they're not alone, and they know that there's somewhere that they can go to for that acknowledgement, support, even if it's just a hand up that they need once in a while.
Hear, hear. Well, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I know you don't often get the acknowledgement because our team, being the family that it is, we usually rip on you constantly, but you are doing a phenomenal job spearheading our organization. Congratulations on the year we've had so far, because I think a lot of organizations could have really, really floundered with COVID-19 and all the problems that caused, but instead you took us up and beyond, and we are succeeding, and we are going to continue to acknowledge and thank and support the military families that need all the that deserve it all for all the resiliency that they show. So thanks, Rick, for being here tonight. Thank you to everybody viewing tonight. I hope you had a good time meeting our team, because I know I had a good time introducing our team to you.
Hey, just so 2 seconds, if I may, before you completely sign off.
You always have to have the last word.
Yeah, I do, but kudos need to be given to you too, because you are my partner in this initiative. Where I go, you go. Sometimes that's, a little bit awkward at times, but
I stopped coming to the bathroom with you. It's fine.
Yeah. No, all kidding aside, this is when you're giving me kudos, anything that you say to compliment me, it's right back at you. I'm not able to do my job and lead this organization without a great running mate like yourself. So give yourself a pat on the back too. Besides, nobody else could host this thing from the washroom like you have. It may be an idea that we come up with, but you've taken it and run with it, and that's what you've done. And watching you grow has been fantastic as well, and turning into the person that we all know that you are. So, so maybe I'll sign it off and say, hey, everyone,
take it away.
thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of it. To everybody who's on today, our team, our founders, our board, past presidents, our sponsors, Canadians across the country, the CAF family, everybody that's been a part of this, Military Family Appreciation Committee. I mean, it's truly an honor to be part of this with you guys. So thank you all. And Steph, thanks for having me.
Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Bye.